In 2017, Dillon Hill dropped out of college to help his best friend complete his bucket list following a terminal cancer diagnosis. They created a documentary series about the adventure that ultimately saved his life. That's when Dillon knew he had a passion for using social media to help others. They created Lemons for Leukemia, which is a viral social media campaign that helps find bone marrow donors, and they broke the world record of the most signups in one day. Today, over 13,000 new people have signed up for the bone marrow registry. Dillon and friends describe themselves as a group of goofy 20-somethings with some wild ideas to spread kindness. Join me today as we talk with Dillon and discuss some of those wild ideas. Hi, this is Bob Poole. Welcome to the Water Cooler Hangout. For over 40 years, I've been helping people like you grow and prosper. Please join me and my guests as we share real-life stories about sales, marketing, creativity, and leadership. Need help in moving to the next level? Find out how others have done it by listening to the Water Cooler Hangout. Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Dillon Hill. Now, this is going to be a little different podcast for me, I think. Dillon sent me a note and asked if he could be on this podcast. And I read this and I said, I've got to have him on here. It says, we're a group of goofy 20-somethings with some wild ideas to spread kindness. Honestly, I don't even know how we will pull this stuff off. So welcome, Dillon. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. I forgot I sent that.
So you're doing wild ideas. And I looked on your website, and I can't believe you do some wild stuff on there. So You're actually the founder, the organizer of something you call Live for Another, correct?
Yep.
So first, tell us about that. Go ahead and tell me what Live for Another is.
Yeah. It's something that I'm sure we'll talk about. Came out of something. It wasn't planned, to say the least. It was kind of an ongoing thing, just really coming down to trying to use kindness to get through life. Just kind of, it's almost like a mindfulness practice, but instead of like meditating or journaling, we come up with ridiculous ideas in response to the things that are bothering us. So you might see like on our website, a number of coronavirus related things, because like everybody, that's been weighing on us. So we put our spin on it and we come up with a project that kind of makes us feel better about the whole thing. Sometimes it's about loneliness. Sometimes it's about stress or whatever, right? But just trying to use kindness as a way to overcome that. And then we put our spin on it, and it usually turns out pretty ridiculous. And me in a SpongeBob costume.
In a SpongeBob costume? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, with one of our coronavirus projects.
How old were you when you started this? I'm just curious.
The idea of it would be when I was about 17, give or take.
Okay, and I guess one of the first things that happened was you came up with this idea called Lemons for Leukemia.
Yeah, I would actually consider that perhaps like our second or third kindness project. But that was definitely the one where it cemented itself as an idea. Yeah. And basically what we were trying to do is break the world record for the most bone marrow donor signups. For my friend who had leukemia, we were pretty naive and thought we might be able to hack the statistics and be able to raise enough awareness to give my friend a genetic match for his bone marrow donor. So we came up with the social media challenge and worked that out. And then we were very lucky that it went viral, and we were on Good Morning America biting into lemons to try and break the world record. And ultimately we did. And then it ended up saving his life, which is, I say casually, but really it's pretty amazing. How that project in particular worked out for us. Unbelievable.
Yeah, fantastic story. Wonderful story. I mean, especially for your friend, but all the other bone marrow, donors that came out of this had to have helped. How many people? Have you kept track of any of them? Have they?
Yeah, so we got over 13,000 signups. And last I heard, which I believe was in about July of 2020, that resulted in 20 successful transplants.
Wonderful. That's great. So have you thought about extending this to other types of transplant needs? I mean, there's a lot of needs out there for, kidney transplants come to mind really quickly. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I think the reason that I've been sort of developing the pitch that it is to help us deal with life is it's very reflective with sort of like what's going on with us.
Okay.
And I say that just because I recently actually was diagnosed with ADHD, which reminds me of the answer to this question because it's hard for me to stay focused on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I do have a lot of experience with cancer just because of my friend, and we've helped a woman named Lexi with her bucket list. We've done a lot of stuff with cancer in particular, but what we learned through that is that even it's other people need help, right? And if you kind of give some sort of boundaries to who you can help, I think it limits the amount of fun you can have with being kind. Not to say we're not going to help cancer patients if the opportunity comes up, but yeah, we kind of just want to help anybody now. We've been doing some stuff with homeless people. One of the projects I'm editing right now, we did a huge thing for kids in the hospital, regardless of what condition they were facing. One of the things that we're trying to tackle right now, you might have seen on the website, is the world's biggest trash can.
Yeah.
And the goal there is to inspire people to take action in the context of climate change. So yeah, it started off with cancer, and then we quickly realized that kind of like you're suggesting there's so much more, right?
There is.
The idea of having fun with kindness, going viral, social media, all that stuff can help more than just cancer patients.
Yeah. So you're in California. I should tell our listeners that.
Yep.
So, and who is this gang of yours that you have? Who are they?
Yeah. So I'm pretty much the only person that's full time on this right now.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else in different levels helps as much as they can. And hopefully we can get to the point where we're all full time. But I have two guys here who live near me who help with a lot of the video stuff. I think it's really important to show the details of all of these kindness projects, like what we go through to accomplish things, because ultimately our goal is to inspire people to take action themselves. And we hope that by communicating our story, they will see that we are average people. We are the goofy 20-year-olds, and they can do the things we're doing too. So there's two guys here that help me with like the documentary filmmaking kind of stuff, which we're getting better at. And then Ben, who lives in Georgia, he helps with editing the videos. He's really good at coming up with like funny edits that make me look especially goofy. And then Max, who's helping us with like blog posts and stuff too. All the writing needs to try and keep growing.
So are these all friends of yours that you knew for a long time, or did someone in Georgia? How did he pop into the equation here?
So him in particular, I needed help just editing a video, so I looked at one of like the freelancer websites,
Yeah.
And then for lack of a better way to describe it, we kind of we enjoyed hanging out.
Yeah.
Like it was cool. We both came up with great ideas, and then we were able to execute it in a way that made us both, I guess, feel fulfilled. And yeah.
Your website is nice. It's very different in that you use videos for everything. I mean, that's a great way to communicate. And I guess especially for people in your age group, and I should say there's like 50 years between you and I. So for our audience here, I'm sitting here, we're looking at each other on Zoom while we're recording this. And I got the gray beard going down,
I got the baby face.
My COVID beard. Yeah. And the baby face. Yeah. So the king of trash, what's the whole king of trash thing? Where's this trash can sitting?
That is not built yet. We're trying to fundraise for that. I don't know if you've heard of the trash tag challenge.
No, I don't think so.
The idea is basically to go to like a local park, river kind of thing where there's a lot of trash. You take a before and after picture of cleaning up the area.
Yeah.
And it was really big in like the end of 2019, early 2020. And I had it on my list of like, I have a list of things that inspire me. I never knew what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do a trash tag thing. And then on Reddit, I saw a picture of this, I guess it was like a PSA kind of thing, but it was this giant trash can that they put up in like 1920s New York. Okay. That basically said, this is how much New York litters a day. It was this huge trash can. And then it kind of sparked. I'm like, wait, that's what we need to do. We need to build a giant trash can and then travel through probably the West Coast, just because we're near here, and basically bring the trash can with us and keep traveling until we can fill it up. The idea being it's well, really, quite frankly, it's a stupid idea and it's ridiculous. So it just sounds fun. And it's kind of a creative way to do the trash tag. And hopefully, people in our community, whether they're in San Francisco or Oregon, can stop by and contribute like a bag of trash to the big trash can. But yeah, it's not built. It's going to be 16,000 gallons, 3 stories tall. We got a lot of fundraising to do.
I was just going to ask you, how do you, pay for all this?
The biggest one is monthly supporters, monthly donations. We are trying to get better at that. Or rather, like, we're trying to like partner with organizations and stuff, whether that's charities to just have their connections and resources, or like businesses and stuff. I don't know, maybe there's a trash can company out there that wants to sponsor this.
I would think there might be.
Yeah, but the biggest one is just average everyday people who I guess are inspired, which is pretty cool.
So do you have something like Patreon set up, or
Yeah, so on our website, it's essentially Patreon. You can do one time or monthly, and you get various perks. One we added recently is kind of cool. We found that a lot of people who like the stuff that we do, they like want to help other people, but that's so vague and kind of hard to get into, especially these days, right? Like, it's hard to go out and just volunteer. So one of the things we're doing is, if someone signs up, we ask them what their hobbies are. Let's say I've been getting into barbecuing, smoking specifically recently. So say someone donated and then they answered, I love barbecuing. We will take their idea and then turn it into a kindness project. So barbecuing specifically, one of the things on the to-do list, we are trying to put together basically a cook-off, but the quality of your meat doesn't really matter. It's just trying to get the like Facebook groups and subreddits and barbecue communities to everybody on the same day just smoke their favorite kind of meat or barbecue it, and then donate it to a homeless shelter near them. And then the idea is to like partner with maybe like a barbecue company or something and use that as a prize to give away just for people participating, and then hopefully tell the story of some of the more interesting cases. For example, I'm sure I'd start a fire because I'm still not very good at it. But yeah, it's basically taking our supporters' hobbies as a fun little perk.
Yeah, there's a great who's the master barbecuer smoker? What's his name? Do you?
Aaron Franklin.
Yeah. He has a class on in master classes. So yeah, you need to look at that. Go look at that. That's
yeah, I watched the first episode where he does like asparagus, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think he may even have a couple classes on there by now. I have a membership, so it's I enjoy doing it. I don't do it enough, but yeah, I've got my Smoky Mountain, Weber out there at backyard, and
I'm putting on a brisket tonight.
Oh well, that's pretty big. How long is that going to take you? A few hours?
Well, yeah, I'm cooking it for my parents, and they're pretty picky about when they eat. So it's really, I'm like doing it longer than it needs to be because I don't want to wake up at 1 a.m. So I'm purposely extending the length. It should be about 16 hours.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good. So where do you get these ideas? I mean, are drugs involved or no?
you would think. So, yeah, you should see the ideas that don't end up on the website, though. There's tons of just like, that sounds ridiculous. I don't know. I think it started off as, some people are great at writing music, or like everyone has their thing.
Yeah. And
I think what I've been learning is my thing is coming up with really stupid ideas. and I've learned to hone it in for something that's actually useful. And I say stupid because they're ridiculous. And that's what I love so much about them. And I think that's what is unique about them. Usually when I come up with an idea, or someone on the team comes up with an idea, I pitch it to like my girlfriend or my friends who haven't heard the idea yet. And the stupider that they think it is, it kind of gets me pumped because they usually will learn the most from it, typically.
Well, yeah, but they're not stupid ideas. They're great ideas. You're helping people. I mean, you have one called one's called what? The World's Biggest Book Exchange. What's that about?
Yeah, that one was really cool. I actually finally took the book back to my house, but I was reading this book that really inspired me. Memories are like a big thing to me, and it was a sci-fi about memories. So it really stuck with me, and I was like, wow, I forgot how compelling reading can be. I really kind of got back into it. So I was looking at the reading subreddit, some book recommendations, trying to find books that would inspire me the same way. And I came across this post from a woman who was the title was something like book recommendations for my last year, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, that's pretty intriguing. Turns out she was looking for recommendations that would help her cope with her terminal diagnosis.
Yeah.
So I did the awkward thing that I usually do, is like message these people, and I'm like, hey, I don't know exactly what my idea is. At the very least, I'd love to send you some books and just, help you get some of these things that are now on your list. But if you're willing, maybe we could do something a little bit bigger than that and try to make a giant book exchange. And the idea is like share your bucket list book with random people on the internet. And then, together we kind of form this. The big idea, I don't remember who said it, but basically it's like you die twice, right? Mm-hmm. When your body dies, and then when someone mentions you for the last time. So the like deep idea for me was to sort of like crowdfund this memory of her. Right. Someone receives this book that is compelling, and then hopefully they see it on their shelf 10 years from now and they think about Rivka. And and so we did that. We had, I think it was like 300 people sign up to send each other books across the country, which was pretty neat. Actually, I think at one point I was putting pins on this map behind me for every person that signed up, and then I ran out of pins. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I mean, it's just your ideas are great here. By the way, do you know there's a guy that's called the Bucket List Guy?
I think so. There's a lot of people that have bucket list and then like noun or adjective. Yeah, and I know a couple of them.
Well, this is Trav Bell. He's actually, I did a podcast with him a few episodes ago. He's in Australia, but he's done stuff all over the world. He has a group on Facebook that the members of the bucket list team, or whatever he calls it, every day, dozens and dozens of people sign up and share what they've done on their bucket list and what they, things they still want to do on their bucket list. Right. So, I mean, you've got a huge bucket list here for yourself that you've set up.
Yeah. There's tons of big and small things.
Well, how does this scale? How are you going to scale this?
That's a great question. I think so. We're working on some stuff right now. I think our problem is our ideas are really big, and I think usually they're kind of a commitment for people to get involved with. Mm-hmm. A great example, even the small thing is like watching one of our videos sometimes can they're like 30 minutes long. One time I threw a dart at a map, which is an awesome story, but the end video is like 35 minutes. The one I'm working on now is probably going to be 45. So we're looking on making stuff that's like easier to consume, and so it's easier to share. And then hopefully, we kind of get people in with like the easy content that's quick, and hopefully that's kind of like an entry point for them to look at the real stories and hopefully find like the real inspiration. It's difficult because we don't want to be the normal like inspiration kindness content where it's super cheesy and like it just refines, it gets rid of all the context, and it's just like this overly refined version of reality. But at the same time, like that's what people want. Yeah.
Well, we'll hear my cat in the background here. I have a cat waking up. So the kindness dart, this was the map you were just referring to. So you picked up a dart and you threw it at a map, and then what were you going to do?
So I came up with the idea. Actually, the more I think about it, coming up with the idea is just as interesting as the idea. I was on a silent retreat following a breakup. I thought it was like 2 weeks after the breakup for my 21st birthday. For some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to go on a silent retreat for 4 days. So I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw a dart at a map. And wherever it lands, I will live there for as long as it takes to like have a positive impact on a stranger's life. And I'm going to do that without bringing my cell phone and deleting my social media. So the idea was to go somewhere completely random where I have no connections and then kind of start from scratch. Like I wasn't going to communicate with any of my friends or family, and see if I can recreate the magic. Like the things that I'm really proud of Live for Another. So I thought, can I start from scratch while I'm going through a breakup? I bought a map of the US. I blindfolded myself and threw the dart. It went about 10 feet in the wrong direction because I'm terrible at throwing darts. And I tried it several times and still didn't hit the map. And then eventually I hit the very border of the map. And it was a map of the US, but because I threw it so poorly, it was right on the edge of Seattle, which, pulling it up turns out to be Vancouver, Canada. So I spent a couple months in Vancouver, Canada working on that.
And what did you do? I mean, what did you do there exactly, if you don't mind sharing?
No, yeah, the video really goes into it. But ultimately, I tried a lot of different things. There's this one street in Vancouver that is like really well known for this homelessness situation. So I talked to a lot of people sort of about, hey, maybe you should, host like a fundraiser or something like that. I donated blood while I was there. I still get calls and they're like, hey, do you want to donate blood? I'm like, listen, please take me off your list. I don't live in Vancouver. I can't donate blood. One thing that I did there was, I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of 2020, there was a plane that was shot down in Ukraine.
Right.
There was a lot of Canadians on board, a lot of people from Vancouver specifically. So I did like some fundraising. I basically tried to sell cake pops on the side of the road to raise money for one of the families. I went to their funeral. But all these things, they didn't feel like the thing I needed at the time. It kind of, they were great. I learned a lot, but ultimately what I realized was I was in a bad place. And in a lot of ways, like I was the one who needed help. And I realized that, following a breakup to completely isolate myself from my family and friends is not a good idea. And I realized that something I really struggle with is loneliness. And I noticed too that every time I talked to someone, they would mention, hey, try the homeless or this or this or that. And also, Vancouver is a really lonely place. Like it was this weird subtext in every conversation I had.
Wow, okay.
And then one person was like, hey, why don't you do that? And then it was like, I understand now. So what I did was I put together a board game night. I'm big into board games. Mm-hmm. And it was, I called it Loneliness Sucks, a board game night for the kind of people who don't want to go. And the idea was like, a group of introverts hang out and try to just in a small way to overcome this isolation that apparently everyone's feeling in this town. Right. I read studies, like I think it was 46% of people in that province or whatever they call it in Canada.
Province, yeah.
Yeah, province. They struggled with it. So yeah, I put it together, was on local radio shows, newspapers, flyers. I think it was like 200 people signed up. And then the day of the event, not a single one of them showed up, which it was like beautifully ironic that all these people, they were lonely, but like no one, could muster the strength to go out and like try to overcome it. So all these registrations and nobody was there. Wow. And it was kind of a really like, oh, interesting.
When was this? What was the time?
I came home because the pandemic started. Okay, so the first day was right January 1st. Okay,
so
yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend actually who lives in Vancouver, and
it's a beautiful city.
Yeah, it is beautiful. He lives in a little village outside of Vancouver. Even I've never been to his village. I've been to Vancouver several times, but I've never been to his village. But he and I we're actually writing a book together right now. But
oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but I don't know about. He's never mentioned loneliness. I know a number of people, but I'm going to have to ask now that you mentioned it. I know that they are very locked down there with the pandemic. I mean, they are really seriously locked down up there. They don't go out.
It was really interesting. Like one of the most common things I heard is it's a very multicultural place. Right. There's a lot of like exchange students and very friendly sort of like Asian community, all these different sort of like communities coming together. And apparently that was like a big contributing factor. It's sort of like everyone moves here and that is giving everyone a really hard time to sort of like have a foundation, if that makes sense. I haven't talked to one lady who was an architect who was there in Vancouver studying the effect of urban planning on loneliness. And like we talked about that and how, Vancouver's like a pretty big city, like in city terms, right? A lot of skyscrapers kind of thing. And even just like the layout of that affects loneliness. It's really interesting. All these like weird things you don't really think about that just are kind of melding together in Vancouver, especially.
It sounds like you might have to go back to Vancouver one day. It sounds like you might have some unfinished business there, huh?
Yeah.
So I've got to ask you about one other thing though. The world's longest pay it forward chain. So everyone I think knows what pay it forward is, but maybe let's go ahead. Let's talk about what it is.
Yeah. So the idea of pay it forward, it's when you go to a coffee shop and someone has already paid for your coffee, essentially, or if you're the person who starts it, you pay for the person behind you.
Right.
In our case, the idea actually spawned from a cancer patient we were helping, Lexi. We've done a whole bunch of stuff for her, but one of the things on her bucket list was to pay for someone else's meal. So we went to a restaurant and we paid for a couple people's meals, and it was awesome, right? It was cool, but it just didn't feel like it was up to the live for another style. It was kind of underwhelming, which I hate to say about things, but I felt we could do better.
Yeah.
And so we partnered with a local coffee shop, and basically what that meant is like we could put flyers up explaining what we were trying to do. And we bought a gift card there, like preloaded it, so that if someone wasn't willing to buy coffee for the 10 person van behind them, we would have a gift card ready. But yeah, so we just went one day with Lexi and we paid for the person behind us. I think it was actually like the 5 people, whatever. And it just kept going and going, and we were shocked. It was amazing too, because Lexi lives in Ohio. Okay. So we usually fly her out to California to do like 5 things on her bucket list, just put them all together. So day 1, we started this pay it forward chain. And then day 2, we were having a fashion show. Day 3, we put her face all over billboards across town. Day 4, we visited a children's hospital together. But it was really awkward in that every day we were like, it's not ending. The pay it forward chain is still happening. It lasted a total of 36 hours. So we were literally at our fashion show, like 24 hours later, telling the audience of the fashion show, like, hey, by the way, we're currently breaking the world record. Isn't that amazing? And it lasted 36 hours. I think the final count was over 3,000 people that basically either paid for the person behind them or use the gift card. And what was amazing is we put like $150 on the gift card. Mm-hmm. And we come to find out that people who basically they would pay for the person behind them, but they also started loading the gift card. So at one point, like the total on the gift card was, I think, $300 or something. So people like gave even more than paying for the person behind them. Yeah. And there were so many cool things that happened. Like we came back a day later, and then the first person that we bought coffee for was a deaf woman. It's a very awkward situation because like I walked up, tried to explain it, and then we had to figure out the communication.
Right.
We came back a day later, and as I was walking up to the coffee shop, she was paying for the person behind her. And it was just such a mind-blowing thing to be a completely different day, but to see people like continually affected.
I wonder if they're still doing it now. Do you check in?
Yeah, no, it did end at one point, which always kind of makes me wonder. I would have loved to just like observe the situation where they're like, hey, 3,000 people have done this. Do you want to pay for the person behind you? And I like to imagine it's like some Scrooge kind of guy that's just like, no, that ended it. But It was amazing that it lasted that long.
Yeah, all these ideas, great ideas. You got to learn we've got to figure out a way to scale this, though. I think that's what to take this and get more people involved, more people that want to live for another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the dream. We've got a couple of ideas that we're working on. Hopefully it works out.
So how do people get hold of you if they want to help you out? They want to invest? They want to donate? Pretty
much everything can be found on our website, liveforanother.com. And I'm glad you said invest. That's the thing we just updated our website for, is invest in kindness. I think it really means a lot. The idea is almost like a managed ETF. If you're in a stocks, right, you like contribute a little bit for someone else to just take care of all the work. It's kind of like, hey, you contribute $5 and we'll put in the effort to bring kindness out of that. And hopefully in the long run, it will make the world a little bit better of a place, is the idea.
Right. So if you were to tell someone how to make the world a better place, what would you tell them?
I don't think there's a right way to do it. I think everyone has their own opportunities. Some people might be in a particularly bad spot, and so something as simple as holding a door open for another person could be extremely hard for them. But that is an act of kindness, and that makes the world a better place. So I think one of our biggest messages is like, there's no right way to do it. We happen to enjoy doing ridiculous things, but that doesn't mean you need to do them like just smiling. Yeah. It helps. Just do what you can, and it is enough.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been great talking with you today.
It has. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put the information about the organization up on show notes, and hopefully we'll get to some people that will join in. There's another organization out there I've interviewed the head of. It's called the Listen First Project. It is what it sounds like. It's sort of like people need to listen to each other, especially now.
Yeah.
When we're so kind of split in this country, left side, right side, whatever sides, it's an organization to help people listen. So you might, it kind of teams up with, it kind of ties in with something that you guys are doing. So I don't know, maybe there's some symbiotic kind of thing you guys could do there. So
yeah.
Anyways, thank you very much today, Dillon. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
You have a great week, okay?
You as well.
Okay, thanks for joining us today at the Water Cooler Hangout. And be here next week when we have a great conversation with Peter Cady, a professional photographer who has now become a first responder chaplain. That'll be next Wednesday with Peter Cady. Again, thank you very much. Have a great day.